He is, just to save time, one of the most respected high-stakes trial attorneys in America, Joe Tacopina, and he joins us now. Joe, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Glenn. I'll tell you off the bat, I don't think I'm going to be able to help you. I heard you say maybe I could help you figure out this indictment. I can't help you at all. I can't figure it out for the life of me. So.
Okay, so is this when he was charged with, 34, 35 felonies, it's the same charge. I said to the audience this morning, it's like if I said about my producer that in an attempt to cover up a crime, Stu committed a crime. And saying that 35 times and never defining what the crime was.
Boy, that's a pretty great assessment of this charging instrument. I will tell you that. I mean, never saying what the crime was. So, look, there's no legal requirement to do that. They charge, this is a misdemeanor, falsifying business records, which Glenn, it's not even close to happening. There's no falsifying business records. But even if you wanted to go down that road, it's a misdemeanor. The statute of limitations are long gone on that. You would have to then cobble that together with another crime, which would also be a misdemeanor, to make it a felony. So, in other words, to aid and abet or conceal another crime. And, of course, doesn't list what the other crime was. Maybe it's drunk driving or something. Who knows? But most likely it's violation of federal election laws because this was a federal campaign. And if you know anything about federal election laws, and apparently that office doesn't, it's very clear that this is not something that falls under a violation of the Federal Election Commission's laws. It's just not. And that's why they never brought charges against them. That's why this is a personal expenditure, personal civil suit that was settled, when Bill Clinton paid Paula Jones $800,000 for an alleged sexual assault, not like a consensual relationship. That was the same thing, but never was he charged with a crime. Hillary Clinton apparently, spent $100,000+ on the Steele dossier, right, for her campaign. She used campaign money for that. That campaign used campaign money for that. And you know what they classified as? This is going to be as ironic as anything. Legal expenses, which obviously it wasn't. But so what does the FEC do? She doesn't get indicted like Donald Trump does. She paid a fine of $100,000, her campaign. So it's really, the double standards are so incredibly obvious to anyone with a brain. And the fact that we're here is only because this man's running for president again. This happens to be the leading Republican contender. And because it's Donald J. Trump. That's the only reason we're here.
So let me just tick off a couple of quick questions here and see if you can help me answer. With campaign finance, is it the FEC passed this down, said there was nothing there. So is it possible that, they're checking the Constitution and Bragg is like, wait a minute, we're the ones that actually run the elections. The state owns it. And so he's coming up with some state campaign violation?
Yeah, it's not a state campaign, but even if he did identify it, say what you're talking about, because we have no idea. We should be left guessing at this point. And here's the bottom line. Regardless of whatever the twisted legal theory is, there is no crime.
Okay.
Donald Trump actually did everything right here. Here's someone who came to him, tried to extort money from him, for a consensual relationship, she claims, or go over later, she said she never had an affair with him, and Donald Trump adamantly denies it, but then said, I need that money or I go to the press. Okay, that's extortion 101. Then he pays that money with personal funds to resolve it. And by the way, he only did that after his lawyer, the convicted fraudster and liar, Michael Cohen, resolved this without President Trump's knowledge at first. He took out a loan, a home equity loan, to finance this civil settlement, and then later billed Donald Trump for it. He's the one who signed the settlement agreement. Donald Trump didn't even sign this agreement with Stormy Daniels.
Okay.
And then later did it, and that's just to appease and get closer to Donald Trump. He wanted to be in the White House in the worst way.
Okay, so let me go to the crime then that they say, the other thing they're throwing around is this a tax crime? And what they're claiming is, I understand, you haven't heard that one yet?
Yeah, I've heard about it. Go ahead. Let me hear what they
From what I understand, they're saying that Donald Trump, I think, overpaid his taxes because he paid attorney's fees to Cohen And that included the whatever it was, 130,000 or whatever that payoff was.
Paid him in a retainer instead of paying him a reimbursement for the
right.
For the
so he actually paid, payroll taxes, or paid the taxes that you would pay if you're paying an employee.
So, Glenn, I know how smart you are, and I'm a big fan of yours. Do you understand how much you stuttered during that?
No, there's no way to make sense of it. I'm just trying to understand what they're saying.
Right, exactly. It's hard. I know. It's so hard to even articulate it because it's like, what? Let me just say this. He never made a tax filing with those documents that they claim are false because he never took a tax deduction. So, again, we live in seriously, when you talk about selective prosecution, if they're going to actually allege he actually overpaid taxes for someone else, therefore it's a tax crime. A lot of people in this country get charged with crimes for overpaying their taxes.
Yeah.
That's another legal theory.
Right.
That's very novel. I mean, it just gets better and better and better. It's really
okay.
But it's a joke.
So this would be a joke if I thought we could get fair trials. But I'm not sure you can get a fair trial in New York. Donald Trump is the worst. He went from the king of New York to the worst, worse than Hitler and Mengele combined to New Yorkers in New York City. Plus, you have a judge that should have recused himself. I mean, the actual information on the judge and his daughter is staggering. Can you get a change of venue or at least a new judge?
Look, here's the thing. We are going to be making ferocious motions in this case. They're going to cover every angle to get this ridiculous case thrown out of court. It doesn't belong in court. We are going to obviously consider whatever legal motions, including recusal or change of venue, if they're appropriate. Look.
Isn't it appropriate? Don't you think the recusal of the judge? I mean, that's a conflict of interest. Like crazy.
You would think. And these facts came out, yesterday. That apparently his daughter works for the vice president. But look, again, we have to be very methodical in our attacks here. We don't want to do anything with a knee-jerk reaction. We don't want to make emotional decisions, and we'll do all the research and everything we need to do. We have obviously several months to make these motions, and we're going to take our time and do them right because you have one bite at this apple, and there is no scenario where we're going to miss anything. And any angle that we can take that legitimizes our legal attacks on this case, I know it's going to be successful because I don't think this case is ever going to see a jury, Glenn. I really don't. It shouldn't see a jury, but we would need to have intellectually honest judges to make sure that happens, and hopeful that we're going to have one here.
I talked to Andy McCarthy yesterday, former prosecutor, and he said you always know it's a weak case when you start to repeat the same charges, and you just keep stacking them on. He said that's the first thing that you were taught in law school. Don't do that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the same charge 34, 35 times? Is this unprecedented or not?
No, it's not really unprecedented, but it is a sign. I agree with Andy. It's a sign of weakness. There's been several indictments where they stack up charges. I mean, it's one act. It's one scenario. It's one, factual scenario that they're alleging is a crime that is not a crime. I understand if Donald Trump, if this were truly a campaign expenditure, okay, Donald Trump would have then had the right to pay with campaign funds, because it would have been a campaign expenditure, right? It's not, and he couldn't have paid with campaign funds. But do you, Glenn, for a second understand the amount of people that will be baying for Donald Trump's scalp had he paid this personal settlement with campaign funds?
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, they would be losing their mind. They were saying, that's a fraud. It's not a campaign expense.
Yes.
It's personal. So he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't.
Correct. They pushed the next trial date is January 24th, right smack in the middle of the Iowa caucus. Is that unprecedented to wait that long?
That was just a coincidence. That was just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Right.
I'm sure of it. Well, no, it's not. It should be longer. When you have a case of this complexity and this, this is sort of a case of first impression in many ways. what I will say is this: we have a situation where we have to do motions. We're not back in court till December 4th, so there should be no trial in January. We want the trial date to be pushed off even a little further because we have to make sure we're touching every base here and fighting on every legal point that we could bring forth to challenge the sufficiency of this indictment. So there's no rush to get to trial here. But I'm hopeful that we don't even get to that point. I really am. But no, it's a trial doesn't normally happen within a couple of months. This is a case where we don't even go back to court for our next status conference and decisions on motions until December.
I have to ask you this question because I've had a very good legal firm for quite some time, and they were the best on freedom of speech issues. And they've dropped me because, they have Google and everybody else. And while they didn't say that, they just said, we've got some other clients and we just have to really – I've been with them for 15 years. I know exactly what was going on. I'm in reading, your history, you're an amazing attorney. But this is let me ask this question. Humanitarian of the Year, Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. Man of the Year Award from New York State Commission for Social Justice. You are positioned in a place where a New York attorney probably should be. You're taking on the enemy, Donald Trump, as your client. Are you not concerned? I mean, thank you for being John Adams, but are you not concerned about
That's great.
Flushing your career down the toilet in New York?
No. Listen, I follow my own constitution. My knees don't buckle, Glenn. I do what I think is right. When I took this case, it's because I realized how outrageous it was, and the rule of law is in danger in this country. And for me, if I didn't have the courage to take this case, then I'm good for nothing. If you can't be willing to fight something like this, and now listen, it's for that exact reason I'm not in one of those big corporate law firms where, I know a lot of firms wouldn't touch this because they're worried about the fallout with other clients. What I did was, look, I represent a lot of people who are politically opposite to Donald Trump, right? That being said, I've spoke to some of them. I let them know this is, it's something I believe in. And look, I'm a litigator, and that's what I do. I litigate. Sure. I'm not his campaign lawyer. I'm not out there, doing things that would be against what I would normally do as a litigator.
Sure.
When I represent someone on the far left, I do the same thing. I litigate. I don't get involved in all the collateral issues. I fight the case and make sure that justice prevails.
I mean, we used to all agree on the Bill of Rights, and I don't think we do anymore.
Yeah. No. And it's amazing that the justice system is now being weaponized the way it is. We have crossed a Rubicon that is going to be forever damaging to this country's administration of justice. Mm-hmm. And that's what scares the hell out of me. I mean, now, it's Donald Trump today. Tomorrow, it's some Democrat in Texas who a Republican prosecutor decides, hey, you know what? I saw what they did in New York. I'm going to use the power of my office, prosecutorial discretion, which is so overwhelmingly powerful. I'll go after him.
Joe, there have been crimes committed by Hunter Biden in 3 different states that are red states. Why wouldn't the district attorney take those on?
Exactly. I mean, and that's the point when it's a clear political play here, and that's what really troubles me. I watched him try and pretend yesterday that this was just something he would do against any single person. We charge people with these crimes all the time. Yeah, you charge people with falsifying business records, which is a misdemeanor. 7 years later, which the statute of limitations would be gone on, and tying it to a federal election campaign violation when you're a state prosecutor that the federal authorities have said there's no violation for. Yeah, all the time you guys do that. Absolutely. I mean, I hear these disingenuous things. That also charges people with false business record charges all the time. Yeah, false business record charges based on what? I mean, it's so disingenuous, it's not even funny.
Joe, I hope you're right that this will never see a courtroom or a jury. We wish you the best. Pass on our best to Donald Trump. Thank you.
I absolutely will, Glenn. Thank you for having me on.
God bless you. Bye-bye. Joe Tacopina, he is the attorney for Donald Trump, and a really good attorney. Feel good having this guy representing Donald Trump.